say.
One of the issues hovering over the draft that we've kind of forgotten about, I mean, it's been the biggest story in the NFL for 6 weeks. Now as the draft approaches, it's been crickets as it relates to Deshaun Watson. And let me preface all this by saying, as usual, I don't know a damn thing. But I will say this. Based upon studying this case very carefully, following every development, throwing the 18 years I practiced law onto the fire to help understand what's occurring, when you have such a high-profile and public piece of litigation, as we've seen with Deshaun Watson, 22 plaintiffs, Tony Busby, who represents all 22 plaintiffs, actively on social media, multiple press conferences, and you've got Rusty Hardin, high-profile lawyer who represents Deshaun Watson, and he's responded with statements in a press conference, and they have been at each other's throats. And then since last Friday when they were in court making some serious accusations of destruction of evidence by the parties involved, 6 days later, Chris, there hadn't been a damn thing said, tweeted, Instagrammed, nothing. It's been silent.
Why, Mike?
Based
Why
on
you
everything. Well, there's only one explanation, and the explanation is that the lawyers realize there's a window of opportunity to settle these cases because from Deshaun Watson's perspective, what he's willing to compensate the alleged victims for, the amount that he's willing to pay, and it boils down to, and I know it seems odd to people who aren't familiar with the legal system, it basically is haggling over the price of a used car when the time comes to work out a case. The numbers take over. You set aside what's right and wrong. You set aside what happened. You turn it into something that will be palatable in the form of justice for the individual who has a grievance against the defendant. I think that they're trying to work something out. This is the time to do it. It's got no more value to Deshaun Watson than right now, because if we hear at some point today that a preliminary settlement has been reached between Deshaun Watson and the 22 individuals, or that not even preliminary, it's done. Paperwork signed, sealed, and delivered. It's over. Criminal investigation's over. He's free and clear from a legal standpoint. No commissioner exempt list to worry about. If that happens today, he's in play to get traded during the draft.
I don't doubt that. Mike, it goes back again. I was surprised. Remember about 2 weeks ago when I told you some of the things I was kind of hearing from teams where people were still kind of keeping this alive a little bit. Like they thought this was going to get resolved. And, listen, there was some insensitive takes there a little bit from what I heard from people around the NFL and all of that. But he's unless it's like something absolutely egregiously horrible happens or something like that to where it's just like, wow, there's great evidence here and Watson is every bit the jerk we think or thought he was in this whole process or whatever. And I'm not trying to judge. I'm just giving a for instance. I think he's too damn talented. He's too good. So if they find a deal and they get this done and now there's a financial agreement done with all the plaintiffs and everything like that, there's got to still be a lot of interest in this guy. He's one of the 5-10 best players in the league. There's no doubt about that. It's just about we're dwindling away with the teams that possibly can make a play for him here as we go through the draft.
One of the points that was made last week by Rusty Hardin, the lawyer for Deshaun Watson, when the official paperwork was filed in response to these 22 lawsuits, and this was not a document that was crafted for the benefit of the courts. It was a document that got filed with the courts, but it was crafted for the benefit of the media, I believe, to help us better understand their position. There's only a small handful of individuals who claim that there was any type of forcible misconduct by Deshaun Watson. I believe a settlement, number one, would likely entail a greater payment for those persons, and number two, it would entail some sort of a retraction by them of the allegation of forcible misconduct. I think that's a critical ingredient to getting Deshaun Watson to a place where he is employable by another NFL team and won't be facing a full season suspension by the league, because that's the other side of it, Chris.
Yes.
Even though the commissioner exempt list goes away, which is paid leave, it undoubtedly goes away because there's no reason to wait and see what happens. There's nothing further to happen. The cases are over. It's done. It's finito, as Pat Shurmur said a couple of years ago. But he's still going to get suspended, I believe. When you look at what happened with Ben Roethlisberger in 2010, where there were two claims. One was a lawsuit. One never even became a lawsuit. He wasn't prosecuted. He wasn't civilly charged. May have been a settlement. 2 incidents. And when you look at the language of the letter from the commissioner to Ben Roethlisberger, it's very easy to take lines and reasoning from that letter and apply it to Deshaun Watson, given this whole at least 40 people who he was getting massages from and the admission by Rusty Hardin of some consensual activity during some of these massages. I think that's enough for the league to impose a suspension. The question is, what's it going to be? 2, 4, 8? Who knows? But I think that is more palatable for a team that would trade for him than this uncertainty.
Right.
What's
how long
when's
will
he
this
even
go?
going to be able to play? Is
Right,
it 2
yeah,
years? We're going to have to pay him more than $45 million over the next 2 years while he's on the commissioner exempt list. So these get cleared away, and the clock's ticking loudly. I can't remember the very profound thing you said about time before the program. I should remember it because it really was. Time keeps ticking. Time keeps ticking toward the draft, and if they're going to do it, it's got to happen. And it doesn't have to happen before the draft begins, but I think at some point this weekend we need to hear that it's happened. And I think the teams that would be interested, and we're going to pivot to that now, they need to be clued in behind the scenes.
Yeah,
it is moving in that direction, right? So they need to be ready to make their move if and when this deal's done.
That's to me like the big thing is there, like, let's. I don't think we're surprised by any of the teams we heard that are interested, right? The Dolphins, the Jets, the Patriots, the Broncos, Washington, Chicago, the Panthers, the 49ers. They're all the teams we thought and talked about and discussed, back before Deshaun Watson and all these allegations became about. So a lot of those teams, more than half of them, it's gone. It's fallen by the wayside. I think the Jets conversation is over. The Denver conversation, I believe, is over now. The Carolina and the 49er conversation is over. So that leaves it down to, I guess New England can still be in this conversation, but Miami, Washington, and Chicago. And, I think what jumps out to me is, like, we know Miami's not in the draft for a quarterback, or at least we think so, unless that's something crazy that happens tonight. But Washington and the Bears might be. And, this weekend could dictate their ability to make a move for Watson if he did become available next week or anything like that. So that's where, you're right. That investigative information, having some firsthand knowledge of what's really going on down there could help some of those teams if they're still got him on their radar.
Even though Miami has never been in serious play for a quarterback in this draft, and the moment they traded from 3 to 12, even though they swung back to 6 and are in position to catch one of these guys as they fall, and I can't rule out anything at this point, but they've always been linked loosely to Watson,
Definitely.
regardless of what they're thinking about in the draft, because Deshaun Watson, Tua Tagovailoa, it's a no-brainer. It's Deshaun Watson. We instantly knew Deshaun Watson in 2017, the minute he got on the field, the guy's special. Franchise quarterbacks manifest themselves very quickly and very obviously the moment that they're out there playing against NFL caliber competition. Chris, I look at this list of teams that you mentioned. The only 2 that I think are definitely out are the Jets and the 49ers, given their plans to take their future franchise quarterbacks tonight at 2 and 3 respectively. I think everybody else is in play. I think the Panthers are in play.
You're right. I
think they're in play.
They are. They could trade Sam Darnold to the Texans, and the Texans. You're right. They could do that. You're right. So I was wrong about originally saying that. I agree. It's fine. I'm glad you brought it up because I was really sitting here going, wait, the Broncos could trade Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater to the Texans too for Deshaun Watson. So they're not out of it. I was wrong to say that right off the bat. That was kind of me being caught by the things that have gone on here in recent history. So you're right. I think you can keep everybody alive except for the Jets and the 49ers at this point.
Drew Lock's best moment by far happened in Houston against the Texans with Jack Easterby and Cal McNair there to witness it in the 2019 season. So affordable back end of a rookie contract, and you throw him into that trade, and you help bolster the quarterback position in Houston as part of that deal. And the more teams they can get interested, for a while we're thinking, well, if the Texans are going to get anything, it's going to be next to nothing. They could swing this thing back and get a decent return if there are, 2, 3, 4 teams that are clamoring to try to get him. two other teams I want to mention.
Right.
Because I reported a couple weeks ago the Eagles are a team that will be. And maybe they weren't before the legal issues, but now that they see an opportunity to possibly buy low, they will be in it. Now, maybe the price goes up quickly and they're out, but I think they are a team to monitor. And what about the Raiders? You think Deshaun Watson going to turn up his nose at the chance to? Now, I don't know if the Texans want Derek Carr after what happened with David Carr, but do you really think John Gruden wouldn't explore the possibility of getting Deshaun Watson?
I mean, no, he's gonna take a look. I would think, of course, Watson's special, like we've talked about. So they're gonna look, but I don't think the Raiders are gonna get interested in that to a point to where they're going to be a major player. I don't. I think Derek Carr played too well last year, and I'll go back to like what I said back at the time too a little bit. He's finally wired his robot. What I mean that with Gruden and Carr, and they got a lot of other things they got to deal with on their football team. I mean, we spent some time on it over the last 2 weeks. I mean, this is a big draft for them. They got major holes. It's going into year 4 with Gruden, and there's still holes on the roster here. So that, to me, would be also the other reason I think, stand pat with what you got. He's trying to build something. Watson's intriguing, but I don't know if I would do it if I'm the Raiders. I wouldn't, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but just be advised.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is one of those potential lightning bolts that can come either out of the blue and you have no idea it may happen, or when it happens, you're going to say, hey, those two idiots today were talking about it, and look, here it comes. And now, which would instantly become the biggest story of the draft. Deshaun Watson back in play.
Yeah.
Cases resolved, traded to a new team. So keep that on your radar screen as tonight approaches. We're going to...
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.